It is no wonder Robin Ratliff is a household name in the United States Paso Fino industry. Being exposed to the breed since she was 11 years old, Robin literally grew with the breed. Her family being part of the pioneering of Paso Fino horses in the U.S., Robin has been a part of every possible aspect of the breed's development. From training to selling to judging to officiating in the Paso Fino Horse Association, Robin has spent her entire life promoting the breed throughout the country. Her passion and commitment glow in her eyes as she speaks, not only about the horse itself, but about the distance traveled since the breed first arrived in the U.S. Perfiles del Paso Fino recently had the honor of chatting with Robin about her impact on the Paso Fino breed.
Hi Robin, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. And you?
Thank you, I'm fine. Thank you for taking the time to interview with Perfiles del Paso Fino here at Extravaganza. For those who don't know you very well, can you please tell us a little bit about your background?
In the Paso Fino, my family started in the Paso Finos in 1966. We had a farm in Fort Lauderdale, and a family came in. Actually, it was the Usategis, Angel Usategui and Carmen Sapero, and Carmen Sapero Usategui at the time, and Tati Usategui, their kids, came in, and they wanted to board a horse. And it was a Paso Fino. We had quarter horses at the time. We had never seen a Paso Fino. And I was about 11 years old then, and they rode the Paso Fino up and down. They had a trainer. She went up and down the front of the ranch when she was riding the horse, training the horse, and it was so smooth and going so fast. My parents said, we have to get one of those. And so my mom flew to Puerto Rico, got a Paso Fino, brought it back. Then we went to an auction in Fort Lauderdale and bought a stallion, or my parents did. And it was El Pastor, who ended up being one of the 6 foundation sires in the breed in FOBA at the time, and brought him home. And then, back then, of course, there was no Google or email or anything, and no way to I'm just going to look and see where I can go look at Paso Finos. It obviously wasn't like that. So we actually bought some mares that had been imported from Colombia and started our herd and sold the quarter horses started going out, and the Paso Finos started coming in. And that was 1966. That's when we started.
Wow, so you completely transferred over.
We did, and it took a little while because we had very good quarter horses. And then my mom and my family was instrumental in starting this association, which was FOBA then, Paso Fino Owners and Breeders, in 1972, which shifted from APF, which was the American Paso Fino, to FOBA, and then FOBA became PFHA.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And that's the condensed version.
Right. Where is your farm today?
Near Tallahassee, Florida, Lamont, Florida. We left South Florida in 1986.
Okay.
Sold the property there and developed property up north.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so while you've been up in northern Florida, your clients are from all over the country.
They are. And, when you move from a place where you're established, it's a little bit scary, but we were lucky. A good number of our clients came with us, and then we were really fortunate to build a good client base where we are now. And, we're about the only Paso Fino big farm up in that area. We didn't come to Ocala. We kind of just kept going and found a beautiful piece of property up in Lamont, Florida. It's 100 acres, and we have, a huge barn and indoor riding arena. And it's just been great. It's been a great move for us.
That's wonderful. Now, the trainer at your farm
is me.
Right.
Yes.
Can you explain how that came to be?
Well, I was riding quarter horses, and I just kept riding, and I kept riding Paso Finos and learned from people like Cisse Figueroa. Back then it was more of a Puerto Rican influence that we learned from in the late 60s, early 70s. And I just trained our horses and then started training other people's horses, and it just continued on. We were breeding at that time maybe 6 or 7 horses a year, but in our biggest time we were breeding between 18 and 20 a year and selling horses pretty easily back then. This was in the 80s and 90s, and I was doing all the training and still do for the ranch and other clients that we have there.
Right. So hyper-focus, I would say, is a trait here, because your name came up during Perfiles del Paso Fino's very first interview with Cisse Figueroa and Alvaro Iriarte. I flew up to North Carolina, and I remember Alvaro recalling how he was marked by the surprise of seeing you judging at such a young age. He said that when he came here, he was fascinated. I believe he said you were about 16.
I was 17. Yeah, he's got a great memory. Yeah.
Yes. Tell me, how did that happen?
It just was that everyone that was involved in the association, involved in the breed, had to fill all the roles, basically. And I had a lot of knowledge about horses, obviously. I mean, not as much as I do now, but everyone that could became a judge. We all became certified judges. In 1974, my mom and a few other people became instrumental in getting us into AHSA, which is now the USCF. So we were certifying judges for the American Horse Shows Association then too. And so, I became a judge and just was, felt like it was our duty. It was our duty to have judges that were being trained on gait and things like that, and that also had knowledge from other breeds for conformation and structural knowledge of horses. So that was basically how it got started. My mom was a judge too, so I just we judged together. Actually, we judged Alvaro the first time together. It was cool.
That's what you said.
Yeah, and he's such a nice man, and such a good horseman, that when he came in the ring, at the time, he didn't speak, I don't think he spoke any English, and our Spanish was just mediocre. So, I think the connection between all of us over the years has just been amazing, and that we remain a close-knit family within this organization.
Yes, and I like that you say that, because one of the main focuses when I started this website a little over a year ago was that I came in the early 2000s. Actually, it was Thanksgiving of '99. We bought our first mare from William Cuervo. And that's what it was. It was a family.
Yeah.
And all of you, I feel so blessed that I got to know you back then, because I see the importance, I see the evolution, and of course you must see twice as much of the entire breed, bringing us to where we are today. And so many newcomers didn't get that. They didn't get that, to see that growth, and not only the welcoming of the American population to a foreign breed,
Right.
but that importance that people like you gave it to fill all those roles and take on all that extra work and still do your own training. And
The passion for the breed itself was what drove everything in the beginning. Just how much everyone loved the breed. And we were in quarter horses, but when we got involved in Pasos, the breed itself, those horses themselves are what sold all of us. And I think it's still the connection that holds us all together. It's these horses. And so whether we're from the countries of origin or we're from this country, it's that connection that holds us all together. And we were determined, or a lot of people that were older than me, and like my mom, Rosalie McWilliam, Margaret Farringer, who's actually Pat Figueroa's sister. They're just, Ben Leon was involved. And we were all just committed, Alvaro, to just making the breed a substantial breed in this country. That was really our purpose for the organization. Not to exclude the countries of origin, of course, because they're the countries of origin, but we wanted the Paso Fino in the United States to be equal with the quarter horses, equal with these other breeds that are here. That's been our goal, and what's driven us the whole time, is for people to appreciate this breed the same as they appreciate other breeds in this country. And that's why we have the specialty classes, the versatility, the Western pleasure, the super horse competition, all these things to show people, look, great, you have a horse that can lope and canter, but it's not smooth. Our horses are smooth, they have this remarkable gait, and they can do all these other things. And that's what's driven it the whole time, for us anyway, for many of us.
yes, and thank you for all that you have done.
Well, thank you.
People like my daughter today have the ability to see them in the exhibition and to dream of doing different things with them. Because in this country, the importance to the amateur and the children it was pioneering, because the countries of origin do it now, and they did it recently. But before, this was the trainers,
Right.
Enjoyment.
Exactly.
And the rest of everybody else was watching.
And they were more geared to Fino. They still are more geared to the classic Fino. And for us, it's all, the predominantly most exquisite part of our breed. But we know that is not going to be the only selling point in this country for the outside people coming in. There are so many people in this breed, in this horse organization now, who started with a pleasure horse or a trail Paso Fino that had plenty of means and opportunity, and they ended up getting Fino horses. But if they hadn't had that first horse to start with that sold them on the breed, that sold them on the smoothness, that sold them on how smart our horses are, they probably wouldn't have gone any further, because not too many people are going to start with a $200,000 or $300,000 horse, even if they can afford it. They're not going to make that investment. So it takes every part of what we do of what we do in this organization to bring everybody in.
That's right. What can you tell people who have the misconception that this is animal cruelty, that we're forcing our horses to do what they do?
It's what they're bred to do. It's straight up what they're bred to do. And it's no different than viewing racing horses as animal cruelty. That's what they're bred to do. Or jumping horses as animal cruelty. That's what they're bred to do. How you treat the horse while you're doing it is what is paramount. And I think we have done a very remarkable job in trying to keep shoes. You have to use, a certain weight of shoes. You can't go above that weight of shoes. You can't sore your horses. There are things we don't allow still in our organization to protect our horses. Where you've seen other gaited breeds, I won't mention any names, other gaited breeds that have done things to their horses that have gotten them, in trouble with the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And we have been steadfast in protecting, our horses' feet and legs and things like that. But this is how they move. And people need to understand this is what they're bred to do. And no different than any other horse is bred to do cutting, or bred to race, or bred to jump, or all the other disciplines that people do. So it's what they're bred to do.
Yes, thank you for that. As one of the founders of Paso Fino in the U.S., can you provide a few words to highlight the evolution of the breed as you have seen it decade by decade?
Wow, that's a good question.
It doesn't have to be specific, but just kind of like in a chronological flow, just a few words.
I think the biggest thing that it just still makes me shake my head is how every 2 or 3, every 4 or 5 years, these horses get quicker and quicker and quicker. I'm talking in their footfall. And 20 years ago, the horses that won probably would not be as competitive today. I'm not going to say some of them wouldn't win, but the quickness in our horses has just every time I see another horse, I'm thinking they can't get, because I still judge a lot. I'm thinking they can't get quicker, and they do. So that's been a really remarkable thing to me, to see that evolution of that. But we have stuck to horses that breeding for good conformation, breeding for horses that still have a good size to them, because, especially in the beginning, people thought Paso Finos were too small. So I'm glad to see the size evolve as well with those horses. And, I think the evolution has been more in the training and the breeding, the more selective breeding stock that we have in this country, and especially in the training. I think the trainers, I know I've evolved tremendously learning, from people that have come in from other countries. We all learn from each other how to keep our, I think, 40 years ago, we were probably like, pull them in, push them, That was how we rode. And then now horses are so light and so flexible and things like that. And so the training has evolved, everything evolves. But with every evolution in every breed, you run into these stumbling blocks of, protecting the horse and things like that. I don't care what breed it is. When winning becomes paramount, then you have to be even more focused on protecting the horse. And that's why I'm glad at this show they have farrier, vet, everything, checking bits, everything. And we should be applauding that. We should be glad to do it.
Absolutely.
Because it makes the playing field level.
Yes, that's one of my favorite things when I show is that, to see that everything is being checked.
Right.
And that the rules are being enforced. I personally, my pet peeve is the clarity in gait. I love the speed on the footfall. It's beautiful to look at, but sometimes they're not Finos.
That's correct.
I'm all for diagonals. I love trocha, trote, galope, but everybody has their specialty. And if you're presenting a Paso Fino, we should be hearing that clarity before being gait.
It comes down to the judging. And the better judges, I think it takes years to become a good judge in any breed, but especially our breed, because the footfall is getting quicker. You have to be able to identify gait very quickly without even them being on the sounding board. You have to. And so I think part of it is coming, with the training of judges too, to understand the timing, trocha, how trocha even looks different, how a horse with just, blazing foot speed, if they're in trocha, there are other identifiers, the roughness of the ride, or your hands may move a little, just the movement in the saddle. There's a diagonal look to the way the horse is moving. And if you're trained, if you're good, if you've been trained well and you've looked at enough horses, you can see it.
Right.
You can see it. There's more identifiers than just the footfall, because in your mind, you're never going to be able to slow down the feet quickly enough to see that.
No way.
There's
Absolutely.
no way. But you can see the timing. And you can see the timing. And so it comes down to good judging and people being consistent in their judging and that kind of thing. But I see a shift to, continuing to be more precise in that.
What could be the most important lesson that you have learned in your profession?
The most important lesson? Be honest, be fair, be consistent. Just be honest and be fair and be consistent.
What do you recall has been your greatest accomplishment so far?
I guess that I've been able to, I was the president of PFHA, I'm the treasurer now of PFHA, but that I've been able to have an organization, sorry, I'm going to get emotional, that has supported me, a woman, in a Latin community, really, with coming in the 60s, a young woman in my family, and an organization that supported me and gave me a chance to do what I love. And I'll never, ever feel differently about that. I love the PFHA, and we have our ups and downs like any organization, but I will never stop working towards and working for, this organization and the people in it, whether we all agree on everything or not. It's just been the greatest, the greatest thing to be that part of that family.
That's great to hear, and it is an amazing accomplishment to have made it in the 60s as a woman, as not part of what everybody's used to having. Because still today, some of us feel that it's not level.
But the horses are the equalizer. So when you have good horses, and I've been fortunate all my life to have good horses, and I'm a good trainer, but the horses are the equalizer, and all the trainers know it. And so there's a respect among the trainers too, and I've always felt that and never felt anything different. And I feel really fortunate, and I just you can't give back enough. That's how I feel. So that's what I do.
And respect isn't something that's a given. It's something that's earned. So you have well earned your
Thank you. Thank you.
What has been an ongoing challenge for you then?
Within the organization?
Yes.
I don't think we've just, very candidly, we have not followed through as diligently as we should, especially I would say in the last 20 years, of growing the breed in the whole country, because our membership is down from where it was. And even when I was president, it's down from where it was then. And most of the decline has been from around the country. And when that happens, we lose the market around the country. We lose new people coming into the breed around the country. And I think everyone is feeling that, and I think everyone is now ready to commit ourselves back to getting back on track with that. I think you get to a certain point where you're doing well and you think, it's fine, we're just sustainable, no matter what, but you realize that in a market, with something that people don't need, people don't have to have horses. So when you have a market of something that you're having to sell that people don't have to have, you have to be diligent in what you're doing. And I believe the same core people that were here when it was started are going to, re-energize that again. I do. And it's not because any other reason except we know we need to. For me, the way I see it, though, with the World Equestrian Center, we're going to be here this year and then the next 2 years. We need to use this place as a marketing tool for us for wherever we're going to go. This is a remarkable place, and it has such visibility around the country. Everyone knows where the World Equestrian Center is now. We need to tag on to that and then use that as a launching pad to keep going to other places around the country. My mom and I are I think we're the only people who have been to every Grand National show since we started. Everyone, and showed it everyone. So we've been to some of the places that were, we were warming up in the parking lot. There have been some great places, but we were committed to that then, and I think we still should be committed to going to other places. I felt the same way when we went to the Kentucky Horse Park. We went there for 4 years, and I showed there for 4 years. There were new people coming in, new people who hadn't seen the breed, and it's all geared towards horses. So, makes it, like, oh my gosh. I mean, the Kentucky Horse Park is something else too. So this is the same thing, where we're here. This is a horse, this is Disney World for horses. We need to just tag on to this and use it to move, to other places around the country, but also to grow the industry starting again.
Absolutely. What advice can you offer aspiring trainers of the Paso horse?
One of the advantages I had is that I had started in quarter horses. I had great teachers. I learned a discipline where you had to trot, have a good seat. I learned to lope. I learned to do reining. I ran barrels. So I really learned to ride well. One of the great things about Paso Finos, and one of the not great things, is that they're so easy to ride, right? So you don't necessarily learn some of the more in-depth things you should learn as a horseman. So I would advise anyone who wants to be a trainer in this breed to still go out and ride other disciplines. Go out and ride quarter horses. Learn how to lope. Learn what a lead is. Learn what a diagonal gait is. Because if you ride a trotting horse, you're going to learn better what a diagonal gait is than you are one of our horses. There's just so many things fundamentally that you can learn from riding other breeds, other disciplines, and then use that and come in and then work with some of the better Paso trainers. I work with people that want any information. I give clinics and things like that. Because the first thing you have to learn is gait and how to identify gait. And when you break a Paso Fino, it's not like they just go off like, Vivaldi. You still have to refine the gait. So, it doesn't just happen overnight. So that's what they have to learn. And they have to commit to it.
Who has been the most influential person of your career?
My mom.
Why?
Because she's my mom. And she, she's in the Hall of Fame. She did so much, to bring this breed into the forefront, but she always, taught me to do things right. My dad too, but he died in 1988. But my mom we were the team and the horses, and she was just committed to this, committed to it, and always committed to my career, and she would come down and say, you got to get their head in, or, if we were going to nationals, you got to shorten the quarto, you got to, what I mean? She would always come down and critique and then say when it was right, and that kind of thing. So, my mom, for sure.
What is the most important aspect of your work?
The care for the horses, whether I'm riding them or not. The care for the horses. We used to have 130 horses. Now we exactly. Now we have 35, which sounds like 35, but we still care for our horses, regardless if they're in the field and they're horses we're not doing anything with. Our older brood mares or mares that we're not breeding. Everybody gets the same care at greener pastures. They get wormed. They get their shots. They get the same care. So the care of the horses is should be the driving force behind anybody. Yeah.
What do you love the most about horses? Any horses?
Wow, that's where do you get these questions? I guess, it's the freedom of riding and that isolation, you have with a horse when you're working with a horse, any horse. It's just you and the horse, you and that connection between that animal that you're able to communicate with. And like as a trainer, you know, you work and work and work with horses, and then when it all comes together, it's just really a cool thing. And that's the best part of it. It's just you and the horse.
You had to use only one word to represent your work, your career. What would that word be?
One word to my career. Just, you know, fortunate. Fortunate. I mean, I work hard, but I've, you know, been fortunate.
What would you like people to know or remember about you the most?
I don't quit. I don't quit. And I don't, to me, the organization is the foundation of this, what we want to do with the breed in this country, and it always will be in our registry. And I will never waver from protecting our organization and our registry and the mission that the people had when we started this organization, which was to have the Paso Fino a forefront breed in this country, which is another reason why I think it's very important that we're here at the World Equestrian Center and at the Kentucky Horse Park, because it gives us a status, and same thing with USEF, that we wouldn't have had. And so that is, to me, what I want to be, I guess, remembered for, you know. And I have a good sense of humor, so that.
That's good too.
Yeah.
I appreciate what you have done for the breed, because for you, even more so than for the rest of us, it must be such a touching feeling, such a feeling of pride and accomplishment to have gotten here, to have gotten to the Kentucky Horse Park.
It is. And I judged this show last year here when we had it in Arena 3. And I remember there was, you know, we were out there judging, and they called for the Pleasure Youth Championship. There were like 23 kids came in.
Yes.
And I literally got like my heart, you know, I was like, wow. You know, that was so cool to me, because without the kids, where are we going to go? We're not going anywhere. So, you know, that I think moments like that, you know, you kind of, and the other thing was we came to the Nationals here this year, and my mom hadn't been here. She didn't come to the extravaganza. She's 92, so she doesn't travel as much anymore, but she came here for the National show. And we walked in, and she just took it all in. We walked up to the rail, and she leaned on the rail, and she looked at me, and she said, "We did this." And I just was like, wow. I mean, just the way my mother's more direct. You're gonna cry. My mother's just very direct, and she just looked at me, and she just said, "We did this." And I was like, you know, we did. And so there's a lot of pride in that. There's a lot of pride. And so when you have pride in something, you don't just at the frustrating moments say, well, that's it. That's not who I am. That's just not how it's going to be with me. So I'll keep working for the Paso Fino Horse Association and all the disciplines, from Fino to whatever people want to do with their horses. There's room for everything. There's room for everything. We just have to, you know, sort of I think we've got to get back on the rails and, you know, keep going again. And these kind of interviews help a lot, because it brings everyone into what happened, how we got here, the amount of work. Oh my gosh. It wasn't like it is now, where we're going to have a horse show this weekend. We had to go get classes in, you know, some saddlebred show or Arab show, you know, and they'd give us one class, and they'd stick it in here and be like one class with every horse that was, you know, either in Fino or Quarto. It didn't matter. That's how we did it. There's probably a lot of people who came into our breed because of going to these all breed shows. You know, the Southwestern region now, you know, is doing a great job. You know, they're having the trail horse test clinics, and they're having the shows, and they're doing, you know, old school. I mean, Michael, who is the president out there, old school, just keep it simple. Keep it simple. As soon as somebody rides a Paso Fino, they're done. They're done. I mean, you know, you see them go around the ring, and they get that big smile on their face, they're done. So we just have to keep doing what we were doing.
That's wonderful. Robin, thank you so much for giving me your time.
No, thank you.
Perfiles del Paso Fino is lucky to have had you.
Well, I'm lucky to have you guys. So, you know, anything I can do for you going forward, just let me know, and we'll get it done.
Thank you.
Take care.